So, as Bartlett said, I am the Senior Manager for Automation for No Deviation, but today I'm not here as No Deviation. Today I'm here as ISPE Singapore. So, as I mentioned, I am the Automation SME for ISPE Singapore. I'm also the Chair of the Pharma 4.0 Community of Practice. Get back to that real quick. One thing I did want to ask this. So, we talked about data integrity and data security. We talked about cybersecurity. So, we do have all your information, but I don't know who all's in the room today. So one thing I want to do and just get a gauge of who's here. So how many people, we've talked about cybersecurity, IT, automation, how many people are actual automation, IT in that sort of chain of command within their company? Show of hands real quick. 6, 7, including me, that's new. How many people are process engineers? Couple. How many people are operations? How many people are quality or regulatory? Where's my student chapter at? Anybody today? Okay. So, it's good to see that we've got a whole slew of people throughout organizations here that want to learn about Pharma 4.0. So, I'll talk a little bit about myself more than what's there. So, I've been doing this almost 20 years. I started working for a business partner in Emerson, making things that aren't supposed to talk to Delta V, talk to Delta V. So it's kind of the foray into industry and Pharma 4.0. How do you get stuff that's not supposed to talk together to talk together? So it was a fascinating point and something that I started to explore further. I've been either the Singapore Data Integrity or Automation SME as part of the Executive Committee since 2018. I'm also the current chair of our Pharma 4.0 committee. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. I've been in Asia for about 10 years. I worked at Samsung, and I've been with No Deviation since 2016. According to one of my interviewers years ago, I'm not an engineer. My degree's in chemistry. I actually found, I was dating a validation engineer years ago, and I found that one, engineers make a whole lot more money than chemists bench techs, and also I found engineering a whole lot more interesting than playing with reagents and doing bench top work. I'm a big tech enthusiast. Obviously, I wouldn't be chairing the Pharma 4.0 committee, and as Bartlett said, beer enthusiast. So. But we're not talking about beers today. You're here to learn about Pharma 4.0. So most people know about the Industrial Revolution, Industry 1.0. That's mechanization, right? We went from an agrarian society, we started to go into the first mechanized looms, steam engines, steam driven. Instead of it being hand powered, we went to interchangeable parts. Later in the 1800s, we went to electrification, Industry 2.0. Things that were driven by steam or by wind are now driven by electrical plants. We also started to see some of the first long distance communication happen in minutes instead of months. So whereas you would mail a letter from New York to Washington, D.C. in the 17 or 1800s, it could take 2 to 3 months to get to its destination. Now, with new rail lines that came from the mechanization, with the steam trains and everything coming up, now we have telegraphs. It's the first high-speed transmission of data. Fun fact, it is still faster today to mail via UPS or FedEx a lot of data than it is to send it over the internet. So in the 1800s, it took the same amount of time to send a bag of mail. It's still faster to send a hard drive. Now that's changing. In the next few years, there's new optical technology and things that are coming out to deal with that. 1968 is Industry 3.0 and the automation revolution. Anybody know why 1968, a very specific year versus 1700s and 1800s? No takers? Who's heard of Modbus? My automation people and IT people. So, in 1968, I don't remember his name, a gentleman by the name of Dick Morley worked for General Motors. He created the first PLC to replace all the relay logic in his automotive factory. It was also the foundation of Modbus. So to give you an idea, earlier, about a month ago was it, I think, was Singapore's 59th anniversary. The moonwalk with Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong was in 1969. So for anyone who still uses Modbus, happy 57th anniversary. And then we come to today. Another revolution, which is digitalization revolution. And we've heard, you've got plenty of vendors, and we've talked about this. Plants are going from reactive automation into proactive. They're predictively automated. They're self-maintaining. The plants are talking internal to themselves and to each other, but also with systems they probably never would have talked to before. How do we deal with this? One of the things with Pharma 4.0 and Industry 4.0 in general is a change in how we share data. And we've heard from Dave, we've heard from the gentleman this morning, how all this data moves back and forth. So most of the automation engineers, and I know guys from Stephen Ropes has talked about this, and firewalling and breaking things down. We largely know the Purdue model, right? We know ISA 95, we know the transmitters talk to the controllers talk to the HMI, the human interacts with the HMI goes to the software side, goes to ERP, and there's these hard levels between 1, 2, 3.5, so on and so forth. And we lock everything down, right? We hear about cybersecurity, and it's a big topic for us in the industry, and all manufacturing in general. Well, how do you deal with all that when your data needs to look like this? It's a very different structure and starts to blur some of these levels. So not only am I talking between plant to plant perhaps, but I'm also talking sensor to something way downstream that normally would have no discussion with. And one of the things, if you're ever on the internet forums, I always say rule 1, remember the human. It's a box of parts otherwise, right? So yeah, a lot of it is technology. It's network, it's cybersecurity, it's a number of different things. But the fact of the matter is, we still need the people to install. We still need the people to maintain. We still need the people to build out the models and do everything that's in there. And so this was a snippet from Skills Future. If anyone's aware of it, it's basically a Singapore initiative to help people get caught up with some of the newer trends in industry and everything. So workers must continue to upskill as Singapore heads in Industry 4.0. The thing on the right is a PDF that the MOM put out 2 years ago, so it's 2022. And one of the things that's on there, that's not it, that's the mouse. Somewhere. Internet of Things application. Engineers, designers, programmers for the IoT. How many job postings in 2022 do you think were for IoT? 2,000, 3,000? 5,000? 15,000 job postings last year and the year before for IoT engineers. People that do predictive maintenance, data collection and analysis, almost as many. Where do these skills come from? What do we do with it? How do we maintain best practices in a brand new concept? This is where the ISPE Pharma 4.0 community practice and the operating model starts to come in. So, Kim's going to go back to the slide later. He's going to talk a little bit more. I don't want to get into all the bits here. But like I said, humans, resources, workforce of the future, culture, communication and decision making. Those are things transmitters, sensors, PCs, servers, network switches can do. 2 major quadrants up here of the operating model under Pharma 4.0 are based on us, humans in the room. And community of practice, the ones above myself or ISP in general, understand this. They know it's not just the whiz-bang thing, right? It's a box of parts otherwise without humans inside. So one of the things that this operating model is driven on and drives, and it's kind of the circular part there, is the 12 theses of Pharma. Now, I know I've got a half hour, I'm not going to go through all of them. But I'm going to go through the ones that I like. Indifference to common industry 4.0, wow, that's hard to read on that. Indifference to common industry 4.0 approaches, Pharma 4.0 embeds health regulations and best practices. You see all the tech gurus and everything going on, Musk and Zuck and everything else, talking about the metaverse. What about the regulations around it? What's the implications of it? The ethics and morals, how does that do that? In our industry, how does it affect patient health safety, EHS? How do all those work together? We talk about quality by design. There's workshops on there and everything today about QPD. We don't just go out and throw out the whiz-bang thing. We layer that on top of the existing regulations and rules that we have in place. Prerequisite for Pharma 4.0 is an established quality system and controlled processes and products. This one's always fun to me because, like I said, I've been doing this almost 20 years, and the number of clients that I've had at various means that haven't really even gotten to almost an industry 3.0 model, having good, solid automation, having good quality processes in place, trying to say, I want to do this. I want predictive maintenance. I want this. I saw this. My CTO or president's talking about this. We have this initiative. Trying to put it in would be the equivalent of going down to the driving center, getting your provisional license, and then kicking Max Verstappen out of his car and hopping into the Red Bull and trying to whip it around Marina Bay. It's a little too much too fast. You need the good foundation to get there first. Otherwise, it's just not going to work right. Pharma 4.0 operating model incorporates next to IT the organizational, cultural, processes, and resource aspects. For anyone that's dealt with IT, they tend to be a sidecar of projects. Right? There's, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to put the system in, we're going to build the facility. Hey, I need access points. Hey, I need to get this data up to Pi. Hey, I need to get this up to my MES. You, come here, come on, do the thing. It tends to be more of a sidecar. It's not already in view a lot of times. So one of the things that changes under the Pharma 4.0 model is having IT, having that knowledge, have a seat at the table. The same emphasis and the same importance as the quality group, your regulatory groups, automation, process, EHS, to make sure that there is that community. Like I said, 2 quadrants on there are about human interaction. And my favorite one. Pharma 4.0 is not an IT project. Period. Yeah, look, you hear all the stuff that's there, you go out and you look at it. There's a lot of IT heavy, there's a lot of tech heavy stuff. No doubt about that, right? Because that's where we're moving. We've gone from plows and cows to tractors that drive themselves. But at the end of the day, it can't just be one group that's responsible for all this. Again, back to the earlier one. You need good PQS, you need good processes products, you need regulations in there, and you need the people as well. So it can't just be a few guys from IT slapping sensors on the side of transmitters and motors and saying, Pharma 4.0, baby, there we go. It doesn't work that way. So who are the people that are driving the Pharma 4.0 initiative? A lot of people are up here. A few of them are here this week. I'm not going to go through all the names. Usually, I think Christian was actually supposed to come. He's been the chair of the overall Pharma 4.0. I think he was coming this year. He's been here years past. Talk about different things. Dave, who was somewhere, was here earlier. He's also one of the members of the main group. All that knowledge, that working group, all these principles, the operating model pieces, gets distilled down into a baseline guide. So if you go on ISPE, you're a member, you can purchase or borrow the baseline guide from one of your other members. And it's a baseline guide. So anyone that's worked with any of the GPGs or some of the other documentation, this isn't high level. So like I said, that's why I asked, who's IT? Who's regulatory? Who's process? Who's operations? Who's management? Who's students? That guide's meant for all of them. And it's meant for the people that understand, like myself, very experienced, very high level, but it's also written for that elevator speech with management. To talk to them, yeah, we understand you want to do the thing, and we need to do this as well. What about local? A lot of the names that are on there, a lot of the people that are there are not local to APAC, are not local to Singapore. Singapore is a tech hub. Okay? Look at everything around us, where we are, 5G everywhere, Wi-Fi everywhere. I'm not going to talk about the MRTs, but in terms of public transport and everything else. It's well connected. One of the best airport in the world. I don't care what SkyTrack says. And Singapore is the leading pharmaceutical manufacturer. So what do we do with that? On top of that, ISPE Singapore, I don't know if everyone's aware, we also support the emerging markets in the rest of ASEAN, so like Thailand and Vietnam. We also do a lot of joint presentations with Indonesia, with Malaysia, Japan. They joined us for our conference this week. So what are we doing in the area to handle this if a lot of people in the main Pharma 4.0 aren't around? So the logo changed a little bit. We have the Singapore affiliate Pharma 4.0 community of practice. And a few people are here, I think Hang was around somewhere. We've had a few people in the group that were the original founders of our local community of practice. Sayagu was actually the one that was supposed to be up here today, running the track and talking. He's moved on. He's going over back to Europe, so he'll be doing the same thing over there with ISPE as well in the main group. So I've taken over as chair, and the other co-founder that's there. And if you see Bartlett, who was gracious enough to take over the administration of this this morning for us as well, so it wasn't just all me. Talk to these guys first. If you want to learn more about it, this is a group of people who are really passionate about technology and pharmaceuticals. So if you have any questions on how to get involved, what to do, come see us. Like I said, today I'm not here as no deviation. I'm here as ISPE. I will say though, it didn't get off to a great start. It was a bit rocky. We all had our own personal obligations and work obligations, but we're all at the conference now. The next one. So we want to review our mission summary and kind of push this COP a little bit further now that we have a much greater audience. So this discussion started during the AGM, the general meeting, which is when the election for the executive committee happens. That's only probably about 20, 30 people. There's obviously a lot more than that even in this room today. So it's a bit of a petition and call to arms for everyone to consider volunteering, and we are all volunteers. So with the exception of Linda, I think is the only person that's officially employed by ISPE Singapore. Everyone else running these tracks are all volunteers. This is spare time stuff that we do. So what are we trying to do? Like I said, there's not a real good centralized hub of this knowledge. We want to build one here, branch out into the other countries, other groups, work with the main Pharma 4.0 group that's there, bring in speakers, bring in some kind of fun events and things like that. If anyone knows about like 30 Thursdays with go-karting and things like that, we want to continue having those with the Pharma 4.0 flair attached to it. Like I said, the next steps, if you're interested in either learning more about Pharma 4, or you want to help set up, or you would like yourself to be one of our speakers, that would be great. We'd love to have you. So with that, Keem, I'm going to hand it over to you in a minute. Any questions from the group? Any thoughts from the group before I go and turn it over to Joaquin? All right, we'll get you set up then.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.